Shh.
Never know how much I care. When you put your arms around me, I get a fever that's so hard to bear. You give me fever when you kiss me, fever when you hold me tight.
Rita Moreno and West Side Story.
Hola. Tengo que hacer una mea culpa. Antes de nada, I'm going to do an apology in Spanish to my Spanish friends. Yo compuse esta presentación muy tarde y no me dio tiempo para traducirlo en español bonito y correcto, así es que discúlpeme, por favor. Okay, that may have been the shortest speech in Academy history. At that time, at 30 years old, I was at a loss for words. And in my 80s now, I sometimes find myself having the same problem, but for different reasons. Advanced age may grant you wisdom, but remembering, esa es la bestia. Change the world, that is a tall order. I mean, I keep thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I thought I would just show up and enjoy the show and watching all of you geniuses creating and seizing opportunities and exploring possibilities, but then Andrés said, listen, nobody gets a free ride. Okay, so I had to consider what I would contribute, and what I'm doing is history. Sometimes, looking back, reflecting on where you have been is a necessary step before moving ahead. And at almost 83 years old, I can speak to that. Receiving that Oscar was a 1 minute and 28-second excursion into surrealism. I remember floating up those steps, my first ball gown ever, to claim my prize. What the clip doesn't show is Rita being visited by a little Puerto Rican girl who had always wanted to be there. Caught in the spotlight, that little girl was shocked and dumbstruck. We were both speechless, as you could see. I had no capacity at that moment to appreciate the profound impact West Side Story, my role as Anita, and that evening would have on my life in the years to come. You know, the rearview mirror is an indispensable tool for mapping a forward course. The decision to change lanes or to stay put can be made much clearer simply by looking back. The evening of April 19th, 1962 was magical. But I can tell you that no amount of rubbing that little golden man like Aladdin did with the lamp would grant my wish for a better role. In 1936, a profound change took place in the life of Rosita Dolores Alberio, the 5-year-old me. Just like that, my mommy disappeared. A week, a month, a year. Just how long was she gone? I don't really remember. But somehow I do remember those enchanting times with my abuelo Justino. I remember the fragrance of my grandfather's workroom, pungent from the dried leaves that he rolled into cigars. I can still hear him thrumming his fingers as I danced around the kitchen, whirling and skipping and shaking my little booty, intent on capturing his heart. He wouldn't leave me. No, he couldn't. He was my captive audience. Well, my mommy did return with a plan to leave again, but this time, conmigo. My 22-year-old mother's disappearance was to find a new life for us in America. She was leaving behind an unhappy marriage, excuse me, the stinging poverty of Puerto Rico, family, friends, and a little brother, Francisco Alverio, whom I would never see again. And so we climbed the gangway of the ship that was headed for New York City. The ship had a name. It was called the SS Carabobo. Now, you speak Spanish, you know what that means. Stupid face. Not a ship with a name like that is not a good omen. Never mind. Only a few hours into our voyage, we were met by a violent storm. A storm that threw everyone into a collective state of panic. Now, my people, mi gente, have many natural talents, but one area in which we particularly excel is panicking. When it comes to panicking, Puerto Ricanos are the envy of the world. It is part of our worldview. We are profoundly passionate people, pathologically passionate. Everything in excess, nothing in moderation. Where other cultures believe in restraint and self-control, which we heard a lot about in the debate, we believe in the principle of constant combustibility. When in doubt, flip out. The storm raged for what seemed like an eternity, and thankfully, a few days later, we finally found our way to safety in the New York harbor. And that's where I first saw her. This enormous green lady shooting out of the water, wearing some sort of crown like a princesa, and holding what looked like a giant ice cream cone. Mami, ¿quién es esa señora tan grande? My mommy tells me that señora is a very special lady, that she is inviting everyone from around the world to come to America, to come and live here, to come and be citizens of los Estados Unidos, especialmente people who are pobres, cansados, hambrientos, sin hogar, poor, tired, hungry, and homeless. We are definitely overqualified. But when I look up at that big green lady's face, all I can think is, oh my goodness, a lady runs this country. We made our way to the Bronx and moved into an apartment filled with other families. The hallways are dimly lit, and half of the light bulbs are missing in their sockets. The walls have been painted so long ago they turned to this awful mustard color, the color of all tenement apartments. Sometime later, we moved across the street into a one-bedroom apartment. I sleep in a tiny iron bed with my mommy. The place is so small, even the cockroaches can't move around. And these are New York cockroaches. I mean, you turn on the light and instead of scattering, they're all standing up straight and saying, "So, ¿qué quieres tú? Apaga la luz." When I started exploring the outside, it was to go to a very big, scary place called school, escuela, where millions of other kids knew everything I did not know, and absolutely no one spoke Spanish because this was before the Puerto Rican diaspora into America. The only way my mom could get me to go was to drop me off and tell me she was going to go and get me some chicle. Well, anyway, once I settled into this new routine, I felt safe in my classroom, but walking home, that was a different matter. I had to crisscross the streets to avoid the gangs of kids who owned the sidewalks. And I ran to escape their terrible words. Spick, a terrible word in English. Garlic mouth, pierced ear, greaseball, names that I had never heard, never, until we arrived in this cold, gray, frozen hell in the dead of winter. I was so surprised that the trees had no leaves. I had never seen that before. This was so unlike the tranquil, idyllic, fragrant paradise where I was born. The pain of those terrible names would stay with me well into my adult life. I would run from the feelings caused by those words, and I would run from myself, Rosita Dolores Alverio, La Niña who just didn't fit in, whose skin was too dark, and whose hair was too curly. What was wrong? Did I carry the smell of my abuelo's cigars? I desperately wanted to be somebody, but I wanted to be somebody else. So, what do you do when reality bites? You dream. And when the weather is friendly, I dream outside on the fire escape of our apartment in El Barrio. There I listen on the radio to all my favorite singers and bands. I spread my blanket on the magic, and it's like a magic carpet on the steel. And when I close my eyes, I could go anywhere. I could be anybody. And I would sing along with my favorite group. Dream when you're feeling blue. Dream, that's the thing to do. Dream while the smoke rings rise in the air. You'll find your share of memories there. So dream when the day is through. Dream, that's the thing to do. Dreams are not as bad as they seem. So dream, dream, dream. My greatest longing and my dream was to be in show business. And like many, many immigrant mothers before her, my mommy spent much of her time just getting by, all the while encouraging me to pursue my dreams, reach for the stars, and I did. Mommy would take me for dance lessons and to perform at any quinceañera or wedding receptions that would book me for their entertainment. In those early years, I was a miniature Carmen Miranda, the Brazilian samba singer, actress, and film star. My mommy, a sweatshop seamstress, handmade my costumes, and she made me a fruit salad headdress, just like Carmen's. A few years later, I was performing at a dance school recital when a talent scout was so pleased with my performance that he whispered my name into the ear of Mr. Louis B. Mayer, as in Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the studio that made The Wizard of Oz. The scout arranged for Mommy and me to meet this giant of film industry. And the only way I thought I might make an impression on the great man was to try to look like my idol, Elizabeth Taylor. You see, I had no role models then. There was no such thing as a wonderful little Latina actress in the American film industry. Nothing. So she was my idol and my model. And once again, Mommy was there to help. We bought a corset to make my waist this big. We invested in a pair of feminine enhancements. My dress, my hair, my nails, my shoes, my face, my gloves, every single last inch of me was prepped and powdered and covered and uncovered until at last the time for my unveiling had come. We rode up the elevator, of the highest turret in the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, where only rich people stayed. And when the doors finally opened, there he was, all 5'4" of him, just like the little man behind the curtain in Oz, the Wizard of Oz. My eyes were like this. The inspection that he gave me took all of 30 seconds before he said, "Why, she looks like a Spanish Elizabeth Taylor." And I felt my feet lift off the floor. Estaba volando. I was 16 years old. 6 months later, I was at the MGM Studios in Culver City, California. However, for years, the studio cast me to play every kind of ethnic role that you can imagine. Polynesian girl, Indian princess, Arabian girl, or any dark-skinned girl that they needed. I hated those parts. I had to deliver dialogue to my white lover like, "Why you no love Ula no more?" It's funny now. And then my character, Ula, the Indian maiden, is so distraught when her lover rejects her that she flings herself off a cliff. Now, you know, my long-term memory kicked in as I was recalling this story to tell you. And I remember that at the end of that scene, the director cuts the film, and he then starts on the waves lapping over Ula's lifeless body on the beach below the cliff, which in reality was me, Rita, playing Ula. And in that water were hundreds, thousands of tiny jellyfish. Now remember, I'm supposed to be dead. And the jellyfish are biting me and stinging me, and I'm moving. And the director screams at me. He says, "Stop twitching, goddammit! You're supposed to be dead." But sir, I'm getting stung by the jellyfish. "Shut up and do what I say." And there you have it. He doesn't see me as Rita Moreno, the young actress. He sees me as Ula. And that was the problem in Hollywood. What was in the mind of those studio executives and writers? The parts that they were creating for young minority actresses gave a clue. Those roles objectified us. They almost always portrayed us as ignorant, uneducated, totally passive, unable to read, unable to write, and morally bankrupt because we were usually some white man's mistress. There you have it, my career until West Side Story. I was 28 years old when I encountered her story. Her name was Anita del Carmen. She was real, she was Puerto Rican, and she fought for her rights. She had plenty to say about what was wrong in America and in the world, and becoming Anita turned into a personal mission for me. I had fled down those mean streets in fear of the gangs, chased and haunted by those awful words. And Anita and West Side Story fundamentally changed my outlook. Her voice could be my voice. I could actually be a person of strength. I could choose what was best for me, for my career. I would resolve never, ever again, after I won that Oscar, to play those terrible parts again, even if it meant no work, and very often it meant no work. And I discovered that I could make a difference, so I became committed to causes like hunger and human rights, which is a great cure for the obsessive self-involvement that can plague a narcissistic actress in my line of work. I joined Martin Luther King as he marched on Washington, and I sat no less than 15 feet away from that magnificent man as he shared his dream with the world and enlarged my dreams. Everyone benefits from road markers, you know. Receiving the Oscar, the Golden Globe, the Grammys became a marker for me. And I want to say in closing, and the winner is, well, who is the winner? Is it the one who receives the award? Maybe. But it's also the dreamer, the one who dares, ese que se atreve, those who relentlessly persevere, who weather the setbacks. Look at those young women yesterday dancing with the drums. Don't you think they're making a change in this life? That's how it's done. And you know what? What's interesting is that it's been done for decades. We just didn't notice then. It's being done now. And the important thing is to comb the past for clues to better inform our choices and decisions for the future, because there's plenty of that to go around. Thank you.